Hello everyone and welcome to a new update concerning the refined priority tier list. So, yeah, 4 new weapons, and honestly 3 out of 4 of them are really solid, or at least decent. Only Hannah really has a unfortunate case, but everyone else are fairly solid. So, let's get started, shall we? Oop. Yeah, as I said, it's pretty unfortunate for Hannah, especially if you plan on plus-laning her. On low merge, the speed that this weapon gives her actually can help. On high merge, however, you're better off with a Death Refine over this. And as a result, typically a Slaying Edge refined to defense will do you better, because if you're not always consistently dealing with armored unit, you'll at least have the cooldown charge increase. That is not to say that this weapon is bad, it's more like the fact that it doesn't really synergize with her stat line. It's so easy to make this weapon work. What you just needed to do was to, instead of giving Swift Sparrow, give it Sturdy Blow. It's fairly easy to add. I don't understand why they didn't think of that, but I mean, Let's add Swift Sparrow on a unit that already has a lot of speed, so, you know, let's forget the fact that the def is so bad that she can get one-shotted on low merges really easily by both red and blue alike. I mean, it doesn't matter, right? Fucking hell. So here is the set I ended up coming up with. Obviously, Death Refine is a lot better, a lot preferable. As a matter of fact, that should have been a Death Refine. But I couldn't actually put the Death Refine because this is using... how do you call this? This is using the unit builder website, but I had to manually put the weapons in. I forgot to put the Death Refine because everyone else I used their own refine. But this is a Death Refine, not a Swift Sparrow refine. So, my bad on this. The whole reason why the Blessing is there is because the original weapon I use is an Armor Slayer. I refined it to defense. And I added 2 attack via Earth Blessed Ike, and then fixed the HP back to what it was without the Blessing. It's an annoying process, but it's basically the only way I had to really showcase builds, and it was a lot easier than all brand new units, so fuck it, I'll do it. But yeah, with a Death Refine, Attack Rest Bond, and Attack Def Bond, she hits upward to 74 attack. And on top of that, 42 def and 41 res. This allows her to be a fairly good tank, and she has enough speed to run no follow-up to block follow-up from happening in the first place. Bolt Fighter Zelgus, that's fine, it only gets to hit once and then it dies, so, you know. This kind of thing. She will do really well against any green, against any red, but as this tier list is, because, let's be honest, the first time I did the tier list was a year ago, I think now? It's been fucking forever. So, let me just specify what placements are again. They're not based on how helpful the weapon is to the person. A weapon does not require dew to upgrade. The refine does. So, if at the end of the day, the refine itself does not help the character all that much, and the Death Refine is better, that's why it's typically under A+. Because A+ is the tier where I consider it worthwhile. So, you know, when it comes down to Anna, it's not really worthwhile, and hell, this build can still work if you're a... if you actually don't have a +10. The only difference is that you will run Attack Def Bond as your A skill, given by Rutger, thank god, and Attack Speed Bond as your seal. That way you can have enough speed to actually proc no follow-up regardless. And make good use of it. But, yeah. Other than this, there's not much just to say. Let's move to the actual good stuff. Now here is the unit I consider the best of the batch, and going from fodder to what he is now is insane. This is Kane. Yeah, I bet you didn't expect Kane to be S tier, especially considering how hard of a time I gave to Ranulf. The difference here is the attack stat mostly, and the fact that he can gate so much more than 3 attack and speed. If all you gain from being near your ally is 3 attack and defense, which is not 3 attack and speed as I said earlier, my bad, 3 attack and defense like Ranulf does, then it's not really worth it, and the time it's worth it, it's kind of hard to pull through. Now, when it comes down to Bull Blade, however, you can actually make him just tank the hit. Without the Brave effect, it's still fine. Because at the end of the day, you still have 6 attack and 6 death. The fact that you're hitting 38 attack instead of Ranulf's 33 attack makes all of the difference, and on top of that, you're red. This is one of the reasons why Abel is S- and Kane is S tier. I'm basically talking about both characters here because they have the same refine, their stat line are very similar. The only difference they have are their stats. And Kane has a slightly better edge when it comes down to stats. You can make him a very, very tanky unit on enemy face, and then on player face he can become a brave sword monster against the units that does have to get the brave effect on. Because that's also the other thing, Ranulf doesn't have a brave effect. And that hurts his synergy quite a bit. So, you know. Bullblade is a bit unfortunate though in a way, because you do need to be near your ally, so a Gale Force set is not ideal. It's very similar to the Refined Theory crafting I've made for Finn. Quite literally, I think 3 months ago? 4 months ago? Hell, the icon is actually extremely similar to the icon I ended up making for Finn. It's kind of ironic. And yeah, just overall, it works very similarly to that weapon. But to make it simple, this is the first set. Since you're meant to be next to other allies anyway, if you have to take a hit, you still have 47 defense with just the bonds. And if you have 3 allies around you, that jumps up to 53 defense because of Bull Blade. 53 defense is insane, especially on a Cav unit. But on top of this, you're looking at 71 attack and 42 speed. That's insane. If you have someone next to you as you initiate on literally anything, like Surtur, it dies. If you deal with a green, you get the combat advantage, and that jumps your attack to 85. Let that sink in. Say Surtur hits 55 death. He still takes 30 times 2 and dies anyway. That's ridiculous. And when it comes down to other unit like even fucking Zelus, he still doesn't really struggle. He does 29 times 2 unless he's buffed. If Zelus is buffed, he's actually going to struggle to get the hit. But anything that's green will explode, and most things that are red will tend to just get killed on the first 2 hits. That's just ridiculous. Mystic Boost is here to just allow him to survive a bit longer. If you use him as a tank, Mystic Boost is a good option to heal himself back up. And if you are, you know, if you feel fairly confident with what you have when it comes down to stats, you could also get rid of Own Cavalry for attack smoke, because then his bulk becomes absolutely ridiculous. The fact that he ends up hitting upward to 60 bulk in defense only, and then on top of that has 49 health to soften hit up, is ridiculous. Abel can do more or less the same, but he's going to be more of a mixed tank kind of deal. And that's kind of just, well, it works, but the fact that you're blue is really hurting your chances. Because the thing with Abel is, yeah, he can do everything Kane can do, but his color is awkward at best. In Arena, and Arena Assault, the most present color is green. He's blue, so already there you're off to a bad start. That's not to say he can't do anything against them. No, he can. As a matter of fact, if you run with a Desperation set, he can do pretty good damage as long as they don't have Wary Fighter to completely block him down. Or, you know, Thunder Armads and likewise effect. Still, Kane is definitely the big winner between the two, and that's why that he's a tier above him. That's not to say Abel's bad, Abel is still good. As for the second set, here it is. It's pretty easy to guess why, but I mean, at the end of the day, hitting Brazen is not too hard, you have the bulk for it. And then with Heavy Blade, Ignis, you can just do hit, proc Ignis, hit again. Ignis with 44 defense because of Brazen Attack Def, and then Bull Blade, which, agreed, is a bit awkward to use, but say you don't even have that, okay? Say you don't even have the Bull Blade effect. That's still, you're still looking at about 35 damage on your Ignis proc. As long as you outspeed them, that's just how ridiculous it gets. And if you're near Bull Blade, and maybe one of your ally has drive speed to make the quad more consistent, then you just absolutely demolish them. Hell, you could also go with Moonbow, in case you don't feel confident when it comes down to speed. Hit, proc again, if you do quad with this. So it's still, it's gonna still be worse than Ignis, but it's still an option. Hell, the thing with Ignis is, if you have Ignis ready before combat with this set, you're going to just proc it, hit, and proc it again. If he's not dead by then, which is very, very, very likely. Brazen also allows you to have more freedom, because Bonds requires you to have someone next to you. So, there's that. You could also just substitute the attack def bond times 2 I was running on the first set for double Brazen attack def, if again you feel more confident with this, or run Brazen attack speed with Brazen attack def seal if you feel like this might be more consistent for you. He is overall an insane monster, and so is Abel, but Kane is definitely the better one of the two. Now, obviously this is Abel, as I said, very similar stat line to Kane. They really don't have much difference. It's really just the color that does all the difference here. Moving on to the last character that got a refine, which is Peri. And Peri is honestly the best of the bunch if you consider just the effect. She basically has a sealed falchion with a cooldown -1. Obviously sealed falchion gives 5 across the board instead of 4, but I mean at the end of the day, cooldown -1 versus 1 across the board increase, I'll take the cooldown -1. Cooldown -1 allows her to do quite a few sets. Really, it's just ridiculous. You can make her a def tank. The main reason I use def solo here instead of Brazen def res is that solo skill will always work. Brazen won't. So if you're comfortable with this stat line as is, double Brazen might work just as well. You'll be able to hit upward to 51 def and 51 res, whereas def res solo will be 50-50, but a more consistent startup, because you're going to be starting at 39 def and 46 res. Once you're in Brazen range, it's going to be a lot better, but as I said, Brazen def res is a good alternative if you feel like you're going to be fine with those stats. On lower merge, however, def res solo is almost required because you don't have enough stat all around the board. As is, it's shaky but workable, but it might be better to just run something like, say, Fury as your A skill if you're unmerged. So, At the end of the day, if you run Desperation with this set, you can still proc Moonbow on the second hit. Glimmer is still a good option if you go for this. The second you're in Brazen range, you are jumping so much in power. You jump to 73 attack, 47 speed. But on top of this, you still have 46 def and 46 res. 47, 47 if you have Brazen. Or actually not even. It's 50-50 and 51-51 if you have, you know, Brazen def res instead of def res solo. It's quite ridiculous just how much bulk you can have while still having the top tier amount of offense. And there's just nothing the enemy can do about it. I mean, they can panic you, I guess, but that's really the only thing. Again, though, the fact that she's blue is a bit of a bummer. If it wasn't for that, I would probably say, oh, definitely A tier. The main reason why, you know, Ketria and Est are in S+ tier is because they have an easy condition for their brave weapons. It gives them extra stats, and it's just really easy to work with. Brave effect with cooldown -1 allows you to go with Gale Force shenanigans. It allows so many type of set to be run. You can just run Bonfire with Heavy Blade, hit proc immediately. There's just so much you can do. And Est, on the other hand, literally kills Surters despite combat disadvantage. Most green units are armored units. So the fact that she can kill the most bulky one of them by herself with two flyers around her should speak volume about what happens to the other greens. Peri doesn't have something so easy for her to do, but she can definitely mull off a few of them, such as Grima, but it requires her to be on Desperation. Other than that, this is the second set, which is a more offensive set, very obvious one, it's just a Gale Force set. Again, this is better on high merges, because on high merges you're looking at, well, 40-40 across the board, well, 44-44, but you're also looking at 73 attack and 43 speed, 47 speed even. This allows you to just proc Gale Force very consistently. One problem with this, however, is that the fact that you have so much attack can backfire. Like, you can just one-shot the enemy before it gets to hit you back, or before you get to do a second hit with Desperation to proc Gale Force. And that can be a problem. But other than this, there's not much else to say. It's definitely really solid for her. And there is not much else to say. Overall, this is a very good patch of units, and the only one I can really say has really lost here is really Anna. So Sparrow is just not really good for her. Sturdy Blow would have been better, or hell, even better. How about just an effect of getting 5 attack, 5 defense if you're within 2 space of, say, oh, a staff or a lance unit to, you know, showcase Tsubaki and also Sakura. It just makes a lot more sense. Combos really well because, you know, a blue unit with a red unit makes sense. And actually fixes our biggest problem, which is our defense bulk, by a fair margin. And the base effect could have still been effective against armored foes, that is fine, I have no problem with that. Cooldown -1 might have been a slightly better upgrade, but at the end of the day, effective against armored foes is still fine. And that's about all I had to say about this. I did not do any set with Abel because honestly at the end of the day Kane and Abel have the same set. Now for something else, I did mention that Zephiel has been increased to tier. Yes, he was in A tier first and now he's in A+, because his refine is actually worth it now. The main reason I put him there back then was because merges was not possible. Well, you couldn't merge him to +10, and AR was not a thing. AR actually but like really pushes player to use mages, since you have literally no downside from using mages. so Distant Death 3 does a lot more to help him. And Zephyel is really the type of unit that got a lot better as time passed on, because a mixed tank like him, that's so easy to build, that's so easy to get, and the only skill that he really needs are DC and Vengeful Fighter to really shine, makes him a lot better. And this refine actually helps him in a lot of ways. The only thing I could say is I wish it was DD4 instead of DD3, because Blade Tome are still going to be a problem. And so is Ophelia, because Ophelia will just one-shot him, or just push him under Wary Fighter to the point where he can't take the hit anymore. And even if he does, he gets doubled, which is unfortunate. Which is why he's not S- or higher, but it still is a worth it refine. So, outside of this, I think that's all I had to say. I hope to see you next time, and let's talk in the comment if you have anything, any question or anything to say concerning this video. Have a nice one, everyone.